going on, everybody? Hello again and welcome back to another episode of the Welch Report with me, Jean-Luc Welch. Make some noise and clap it up. Get excited wherever you are. We are back as we always are every week with another jam-packed episode covering the world of sports with, on this episode, basketball, boxing, and the NBA. We got a bunch to cover in a short amount of time to do it, so let's not waste any time. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Sit back and relax and enjoy the show. Please leave a like on the video, comment your thoughts and opinions, subscribe to the channel, and share the show with everybody that you know so we can keep on building up this empire of a channel to get this empire of a community together. We are nearly at 1,000 subscribers. We are marching our way to the top, or at least to the top of our goal. And I can't wait till we reach it. We got some stuff in store. You better believe it. And again, thank you for all the support and keep on building up this platform so we can make this the best show in all of the internet world, in the internet spaces, in all of podcasting dumb as a whole. That's right, we can bring this community up to the top, and it's all thanks to you and your support. But without further ado, all niceties aside, we gotta step into the world of sports, and specifically step into the world of boxing first and foremost, because that's what most of you all came here for. So without further ado, it is time to step into the ring. That is right. Ring the bell. Let's get it started. Round one of this show, boxing segment underway, talking about Canelo Alvarez and his most recent interviews leading up to the Jaime Munguia fight, in a fight that many people have had a very, very tough time digesting, not because it's not a good fight, but it's not the fight that we want to see. And Canelo is getting a whole lot of pushback from the boxing community because of this fight with Jaime Munguia. And he's recently put out, was interviewed, I believe, by Fight Hype TV. It might have been just them putting it out on the internet, but somehow or another got interviewed out in public for the Jaime Munguia fight and essentially said, hey, for David Benavidez to fight me, it's got to be 150 to $200 million for me to get in the ring with him. Again, paraphrasing, of course. But in total, what he said, Benavidez is bigger than me, 25 pounds heavier. He's not a draw. He can't bring me the money or bring the money to this fight to make this a truly big event. Again, this is paraphrasing his words, not my own assumptions. And ended that with saying I would need $150 or $200 million from or $150 million to $200 million from my promoters in order to actually make that fight happen. And that has sent the world into an absolute whirlwind. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we have some major problems with this statement, because this is ridiculous. We have gotten on this exact subject with Tank, with Canelo, with Tyson Fury, in terms of making fights happen with the best in your division when they're right there and you opt to go out of your way and make it not so. Essentially ducking, running, avoiding the challenges, avoiding the fight. Again, we don't say this lightly when we say an opponent is ducking or not. We have to call it like we see it. And this now is egregious because of the very reasons that Canelo said. First and foremost, what do you mean you need $150, $200 million to fight David Benavidez? Like it wouldn't bring a boatload of money already, number one. Number two, Benavidez said he would fight you for $5 million on his end. Yet you give Jaime Munguia, if I have my numbers correctly, upwards of around $35 million. Somewhere around that range, substantially above what David Benavidez said he would fight you for. And thirdly, for you to say this is not a big money draw, when you, in listening to the public and in you being the king, and as you claim yourself to be, understanding how much and how widely anticipated this fight has been wanted by the boxing fan, by the fight fan, let alone the Mexican community, and how much that fight has been absolutely cage rattling in terms of the anticipation, the amount of love that people want to have that fight to happen, the amount of anticipation and support for that fight to happen. Literally, it is split between you and Benavidez for who the fans in Mexico will root for. And the amount of people that are saying who's going to win, it is as close as we can get to the prime of, actually, it might even be, it's right in the prime, just like it was with Crawford and Spence, in terms of, just like it was with Floyd and Pacquiao. In terms of, we want this fight right now, both of you all are right there. And you're at the prime of your careers. You're on the same side of the street promotionally. Both of you all are in the PBC. And you both are vying for the spot of undisputed at super middleweight. Again, we know that David Benavidez said that he's going to move up if, in fact, he doesn't get to fight with Canelo like he's been touting and trying to get for a number of years and justifiably earned the right to fight him, but hasn't gotten the shot, hasn't gotten the opportunity. Now, we're looking and saying, Canelo's coming out and saying all of this stuff that is really degrading how we view him as a boxer. Because this wasn't what Canelo was about early on in his career. Again, I loved him because he fought everybody. I was hesitant to call him a duck because of the fact that his track record had shown he had fought everybody you put in front of him. He fought Billy Joe Saunders. He fought Caleb Plant. He fought just about every reputable champion or contender. He fought Amir Khan. He fought Laura. He fought Trout. He's done what he needed to do to be in the position that he is right now. He became undisputed. He unified all the belts. He moved up to fight Kovalev. He moved up to fight Bivol. Challenges after challenge. We loved and respected it. Fought Floyd early on in his career and developed and overcame. And turned into an even better beast. The prime beast that we know him as now. So this is he earned where he was in terms of, or rather he earned where he is for his status as the biggest name in boxing. He's earned it. There's no doubt in my mind he's earned it. That's absolutely true. He earned it. But the problem is now that he's sitting on top of the throne that he built and justifiably so deserves to sit on as the face of boxing. Now he is doing the complete opposite of what got him to that level and seemingly running away. There's no reason. And he says, put some respect on Jaime Munguia's name. Put respect on that fighter's name. Absolutely. Jaime Munguia deserves all the respect in the world. Has developed, has gotten better, has, again, with that fight against John Ryder, knocking him out in the way that Canelo wasn't able to do. And after what he's shown throughout the other classes that he's gone through in terms of weight, he's a very respectable fighter, a very exciting fighter. Him and Freddie Roach, a compatible pairing. I love what they're doing together. This isn't a knock against Jaime Munguia. Munguia put his name and earned his name into the sweepstakes of Canelo. I made a video on this in the past. I did a whole podcast on this in the past. He did and earned a shot at Canelo. It just shouldn't have been the next shot. Canelo knows this, and we as fans know this. We all see it. With how much of an exciting fight Canelo and Munguia will be, I have no doubt. Munguia did not deserve that shot before somebody like a David Benavidez, nor is he as competitive in terms of a talent standpoint as Benavidez would have been. Not saying he won't give a great show. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that for fighting and vying for the best in the division, it shouldn't have been it should not be rather, that we are still clamoring for Benavidez to be in the ring with Canelo. Canelo holds all the cards, and he earned the right to hold them. But the problem is now he's gotten to a point where those cards are now being dealt with in a terrible manner. In a manner that we vilify other people like Floyd Mayweather for using and holding. And even with Floyd, with him avoiding Winky Wright, avoiding Keith Thurman, fighting fighters at the right time, not getting in with the ring with opponents when they were at their best, waiting them out, like with Pacquiao. He's still got in the ring with them inevitably. At least we can say that. Showbiz the Adult, if you follow him on YouTube. Hey, he brought up that same point. Phenomenal. I'm not one that just takes all the points. Somebody else made a great point. You give credit where credit is due. Showbiz made a great point. At minimum, he fought everybody that was at their that was just about everybody. Even though he waited them out. And I hated it. I hated the fact that he didn't fight him at their best. Hated the fact that he didn't fight him at their prime. Outside of Thurman and Winky Wright. However, he still got in the ring at some point in time with them. Better late than never. Though we hate that it was late, it's still, we can at least say for the majority, for the most part, it wasn't never for the majority. With Canelo, he's gotten in the ring with everybody. Most up until this point, it's been either with them at or close to their prime. Great. But now he's acting in a way that is incredibly indicative of somebody who is comfortable with their status instead of moving up. He himself said that he has nothing else to prove. He said it himself. And in terms of his legacy, it is cemented. But it's still more to prove in terms of what you can become. Because you're still in your prime. You still have steps to take. You're still in route, if you are Canelo, trying to get to be or trying to become the greatest Mexican boxer that the sport has seen. That is what your goal is. That's what you want. You want to beat Julio Cesar Chavez. You want to beat Salvador Sanchez. You want to beat these other Carlos Monzon. You want to beat these other legendarily great boxers who have epitomized the Mexican spirit and the Mexican style of boxing and Mexican pride as a whole. Viva Mexico! As you chant out, those are the people that have cemented their legacy. Unlike few ever have, and few ever did in the sport, let alone in the Mexican community. Oh my gosh, they're major. It's like Maradona in Argentina. Even though Messi with everything Messi was accomplishing, it was still held among the people that Maradona was still the best of them because he got the World Cup. Again, Messi is better. We're getting off track a little bit in terms of crossing over sports. We're getting to a point. Messi is all around a better player than Maradona. Absolutely. But he still needed to accomplish something to put him over the greatness level of Maradona in the eyes of the Argentinian people. And what happened? Boom. Got that World Cup after winning the Ballon d'Or, after winning Player of the Year or Man of the Match, whoever, how many times. Being the most well-rounded and fully near perfect footballer we have ever seen in the history of the game. Better than Pele, better than Ronaldo, better than Ronaldinho, better than Neymar, better than anybody you can put in front of him. He is indeed better. But he achieved what needed to be achieved. With that World Cup, it cemented everything. No longer is there a conversation. No longer is there a conversation. Because he went and took the challenge and overcame it. That's just the fact of the matter. I mean, even if he didn't overcome in terms of Messi, say he never won a World Cup, but he opted to say that I'm bigger than the World Cup, I don't need to play. That would have been so detrimental that he would never be seen like that we see him as now. Definitely not amongst the people that are Maradona fans in that country as a whole. Bringing it back to boxing, Canelo's saying that his legacy cemented in stone. To a degree it is. Similar with Messi. But because of the challenge of Benavidez, just like the challenge of the World Cup, there was no need to have to say, or there's no point in saying that you don't need Benavidez and or Benavidez is too this, that, and the third. When we've seen you do this, that, and the third with other opponents of the like Sergio Kovalev, like Bebo, going up and challenging people that are bigger than you, significantly, 20 plus pounds bigger than you, and beating them. You've done it before. So it makes no sense that you're saying you don't need Benavidez. You're making these outlandish statements about Benavidez, saying that you need this exorbitant amount of money. Essentially, as much as we've seen some of the best NBA players, as much as a fraction of the money that we're saying Patrick Mahomes get for his tenure with the Kansas City Chiefs. $500 million for a multi over the course of the entire term of that contract with the Chiefs. Canelo wants $200 million for one fight. This is the fight is huge. Make it now. You need him. Wrapping this all up in a bow. You need David Benavidez for your legacy of your Canelo. You cannot go throughout your entire tenure as a boxer and never face him. You can't do it. If you want to achieve what you want to achieve, Benavidez is your World Cup of your Canelo. You have to go through him if you want to be seen in the light that you want to see. If you fail, you fail. That's fine. But just like with Messi, if he never won it, if he had never won a World Cup, like it looked like it might have happened, and he might have never won it, but he kept on going and trying, boom, still all the credit in the world, because he still gave phenomenal performances. It just didn't happen. That's fine. But he tested himself continually. And with you as Canelo Alvarez, you have to go through this test. This is the biggest test because you've done everything else. You achieved everything else that you're supposed to achieve. You've done everything else right up until this point. But now, when the time is there, and the time is now, to go and submit further in a bigger fashion than maybe ever in your career, on the level of being the undisputed champion at super middleweight. That's what this fight is. I'm being completely honest. I'm not saying nobody's bigger than the belts. The belts are evident. There should be only one. But again, as an undisputed champion, one of the highest achievements you can get in a boxing career. Understand it. For anybody's legacy. But for this fight, and the trajectory and the story and the legacy that is on the line, there has to be some sense of urgency to say that I got to get in the ring with this guy. I have to. I can't waste time. I can't be sitting here ducking when there is legacy to be made. All this talk about you beat him, you're better than him. If he is that much of a non-factor to you, why don't you get it over with? We've said this before about fighters. If he's that much of a non-issue, get it over and beat him. Knock him out. Make it easy. Show that he doesn't even belong in the same caliber as somebody like you. If that's the case, prove us. That's all you gotta do. Prove us that it is correct. But if you continue to go through this route of running, which is what you're doing, running, this is not okay. You'll never be seen in the light that you want to see. Benavidez is your World Cup of your Canelo. If you don't, at minimum, face him, you'll never be seen as better than Julio Cesar Chavez. You'll never be seen as better than Salvador. You'll never even be able to sniff that comment. You'll never be able to do it. You will be stuck exactly where you are in the rankings as one of the greatest Mexican boxers that we've ever seen. No doubt about it. Again, legacy to a degree cemented. You are one of the all-time greats. But you'll be stagnant as one of, and not in conversations for the greatest. There's a difference. One of and the are two completely different categories of fighter. Categories of greatness. One of the greatest of all time is where you're at in terms of Canelo. No doubt about it. But to be in conversation for the greatest, you've got to go through. You've got to go through Canelo. I mean, you got to go through David Benavidez. You have to, you Canelo. Because like I said before, there is nobody else in the division to fight. None. None whatsoever. Not a soul is left in the division for you to have a challenge against that hasn't earned the right nor been as potent of a threat as somebody like David Benavidez. David Benavidez is the man that is the boogeyman for the entire division. The known threat that he is. And you and Canelo beat him, boom, we have nothing to say. We got nothing to say. Great. Phenomenal. If you lose to him, okay, fine. Rematch him. Do what Triple G did with you. Fight him 3 times. I don't care. You gotta get in the ring. You have to. It's not even about the wins or losses at this point. It's just about getting in the ring, making the fight happen instead of running like you're doing. Because you are not acting like a champion that you represent right now. You have the belts. You have the titles. You have the aura, the cachet. You have the pull. But you are acting like somebody who doesn't want that at all when it comes to David Benavidez. Because every excuse in the book seemingly comes with David Benavidez. But with everybody else, oh yeah, let's make it happen. At this point, I almost want Jaime Munguia to win. I don't think he's going to. No. But if Munguia beats Canelo, granted, before I say this, understand they have a rematch clause, I believe. They have a rematch clause in that fight, so they'll fight again. But let's say they didn't have a rematch clause, or even Munguia beats him twice. My gosh, if that happens, great day in the morning. Once is incredible for Munguia. Twice in a row, my goodness. We gotta start having conversations about Munguia at that point. More than just he just got Canelo's number. That's true greatness. But if he beats Canelo, I guarantee you, he's fighting Benavidez after that. I'm almost assured we're more likely to get Munguia versus Benavidez if Munguia does in fact pull out an upset and win, rather than we ever see Canelo versus Benavidez. Because I can get Munguia most likely will give him the shot, give him the chance, get in the ring with him, test himself. Canelo, when it comes to Benavidez, and seemingly only Benavidez, he never wants to actually do it. Backs down questions when asked about him, downplays the significance of that fight, says that it's easy, yet also says it's not worth his time. There's it doesn't make any sense. It's acting foolish. And it's terrible for the sport. When the biggest name in the world is acting like he's acting against his biggest opposition, it's outright terrible. It's horrible. It should not be what's going on. This is not the Canelo that everybody fell in love with, nor the Canelo that everybody respected. This is not the Canelo that everybody looked to as a larger-than-life figure. Somebody who had conquered the game. Somebody who had been, and deservedly so, and still is, at the top of the mountain. Seen as the cash cow. The man to represent the sport. That is Canelo Alvarez. Right now, while he's in that position, when it comes to David Benavidez, he is acting completely opposite of what that position should represent. The status that he's got. He's acting completely opposite of what it should be. And it's insanely infuriating. Because we know that this shouldn't be. In fact, it goes on to the next thing. Why can't he be like Tszyu, who's going up against now Sebastian Fundora? We never hear anything about Tszyu. Because he's always fighting. He fought 3 times last year. But it's always consistent in getting in the ring and challenging anybody and everybody. He's fighting against Fundora. Fundora, what, 6'6"? 6'6" at 154 pounds? A literal towering inferno. And he's still getting in the ring with him. Though he knows that severely, physically, he's outmatched due to that insane height and length disparity. Again, we're going to break down the fight right now, but the point is, before we switch gears, fully, getting with Canelo, you have other confidants that are doing exactly what they're supposed to do around the sport of boxing. Yet, of all the people that are either looking to get to your level or are close to your level in any way, shape, or form, you being at that level, the highest level of respect and seen as the it guy, the man, the king, the face of boxing, which you are acting like a person who doesn't want that title. Because to keep that title, you have to keep on doing the best that you can do, pushing against the best, fighting against the best. Instead of acting like Tszyu, instead of acting like David Benavidez, instead of acting like Naoya Inoue, instead of acting like even Terrance Crawford, though he should be getting in the ring with Jerron Boots Ennis. Now, instead of acting like those people, you're acting like Tank. You're acting like other boxers who are holding out on what they should actually be doing. Ryan Garcia is fighting everybody. Devin Haney, he's taking challenge after challenge. Went from Kambosos up, which who was okay, completely outclassed, to Lomachenko, then now fighting Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia went from Tank to Devin Haney. Challenge after challenge after challenge. Like everybody else around you. Teofimo Lopez just fought recently. Just fought Josh Taylor. And yes, he had somewhat of a performance in his last fight, understandable on the whole. But the fast track to his career, what he's been about for the majority of the time, has been when I get in the ring, I'm getting in the ring with either at my level or just below it, or even above it in some people's eyes. We consistently, everybody else around you, it's all of a sudden since last year, taking the reins and fought in a manner that looks and seems like they're pushing themselves. Yet you now are going the complete opposite direction. Again, going the route of Tank and not getting in the ring with the man that's supposed to be in your line of sight right there. Again, Tank is fighting Frank Martin. Love that fight. He's still going to beat him, knock him out in 5, but still, it's better on the track than what we were seeing in the past when he wasn't doing anything, and now we're not getting anywhere close to Devin Haney. So this is at least an improvement on everything I said about Tank, which is still valid. He's still showing that he's doing and moving in the right direction with fighting somebody like a Frank Martin. No problems there. It's the right way. But with Canelo, when it comes to Benavidez specifically, it makes no sense that this is the route that you're taking. It makes none whatsoever that you're opting to make this your form of action, your course of action, in fighting Jaime Munguia, in demanding $150 to $200 million to make a fight happen. When you know good and well that fight, you don't need to make outlandish statements like that because you would make big money in that fight regardless. Literally outpricing yourself. And then saying that he's not worth your time, nor is he on your level, nor is he a moneymaker. But you know that would make money. Every excuse that you're making is something that makes no sense because it's illogical and not factual in the slightest. It's only when it comes to Benavidez that you go this route. And it's infuriating. And it's frustrating. And it's stupid on your part. And it's ignorant. And you're acting like a duck in a bum. Just like we called out with Tank. Just like we called out with Tyson Fury. And now we call it out with Canelo. Again, you're acting like a bum. You're acting like a duck. And we can all see it. And it's ridiculous that you're acting this way when you know you can be better. I've even said that you can beat him. That's the crazy thing. This isn't a fight that is so out of left field or outmatched that you can't beat him. I've said that you would beat Canelo. Or excuse me, I've said that you would beat Benavidez. I've consistently said that. But I've also consistently said it's about timing of it. If you fight him now, you can beat him. If you wait, you won't beat him. You won't. If you fought him now, within this year, you beat him. You fight him May 4th, you beat him. That's my pick. Incredibly close, but you would beat him. But if you keep waiting this fight out, keep on waiting for this fight to build up those already built, While David Benavidez keeps going up and up and up, you will go on the decline. And by the time you make that fight happen, and you try to do what we've seen Floyd do, wait people out, you're going to lose. And at that point, you're never going to be in the conversation that you want to be in. For the greatest Mexican boxer of all time, you'll never be in that conversation. Because then we'll look at it and say you avoided this man for umpteen years. And then when you actually got in the ring with him, you got put out, you got beat. Oh, there's no. We don't respect that at all. Or excuse me, we respect you finally getting in the ring. Because everybody who gets in the ring is a warrior. No doubt about that. But you went. And we know you waited. We know that you avoided. We know that you ducked. And you tried to wait out his decline. And then when you seemed like when he seemed to you like he was at his weakest and you still lost to him, you're never going to be in that conversation. Never. When we say Julio Cesar Chavez, we will never think of Canelo. Salvador said we will never think of Canelo. He will never. He will be bogged down by that. Again, if he got in the ring now, even if he lost, just the fact that he went and pushed himself, no problem. But if you wait him out and you then still lose, knowing what we know or what we're seeing right now, with you actively avoiding him and doing a Floyd and trying to wait to the perfect moment to get in the ring with David Benavidez, then at that point, it's all, it's up and it's done. It's up and it's stuck. We're never going to see you in the way that you want to be seen. Never. It's ridiculous. It's so stupid. And this is exactly what we have to deal with every time there's a big name fighter or a big time fight. Red tape excuses and outright running. This ain't what the sport's supposed to be about. It's not what this is supposed to be. It's not how we're supposed to operate if you're a boxer, nor what we're supposed to put up with if we're fans. It's a terrible thing, I tell you. It's a terrible thing. It's horrible. Again, Benavidez moving at light heavyweight. Keep on pushing himself. Love it. Can't wait to see what he does up there. Don't wait on Canelo. And thankfully he's not. Because at this point, Canelo, you look worse not fighting him than you do fighting him and losing. You look worse not fighting him at all than fighting him and losing. Because if you fought him and lost, okay, boom. You lost, okay, fine. But you went and tested yourself. Going and not even testing yourself gives us credence to say, maybe you didn't feel that you could beat him in the first place. Not even trying showed us that you were scared. Not even attempting shows us that you were blatantly lying to the public about exactly how big this fight is, saying that he can't bring in any money in terms of Benavidez. Go watch the interview. Again, you can find it on YouTube. But all this stuff, no, it's ridiculous. It's stupid and dumb that we have to sit here and consistently be witnesses of this outright belligerent running. That's what it is. Blatant running. Blatant ducking. For no good reason at all. And you look worse not fighting at all than you do if you got in the ring and lost to David Benavidez. Because you don't even want to challenge what needs to be challenged. Because that you're forfeiting your right to be seen as the greatest of all time among Mexican fighters. But now switching gears fully into Tszyu versus Sebastian Fundora. This fight is for Tszyu's WBO title at 154 pounds. This is going to be a very interesting affair because the Towering Inferno in Fundora is, I believe, it is his first title opportunity since, or not even since, but before this fight, I believe he got knocked out by Brian Mendoza, who, ironically enough, got beat by Tszyu in Tszyu's first title defense. So it's a situation where, hey, I beat the man that beat you up, or rather that knocked you out in the knockout of the year contender. If you haven't seen that knockout, it's insane. Oh my gosh, it was literally like a tree falling in the forest. How he got caught with the hook and went straight to the mat. It was insane. And it showed Mendoza's heart and his outright ability to push through. He's tough. That butter is tough. But Tszyu cracked that butter multiple times and beat him in a unanimous decision, if I remember correctly. So now going up against Sebastian Fundora, how is it that we're going to see Tszyu beat him? Can he beat him? And the answer is simply yes. Yes, he can beat him. I'm picking Tszyu to beat Sebastian Fundora. But when it comes to how that's going to happen, it's got to be the body attack at this point. It has to. We know the power can crack. Absolutely. We know that Tszyu is somebody who likes to start slow to some degree. He doesn't have a wide or outlandish output of punches. Yeah, no doubt about it. He's methodical. He will pick his shots. Got one of the lowest output of any champions in the boxing world today. But he will damage you so much. And once he has you hurt, that's when you see him really open up. But how is he? What's going to be the key to beating Sebastian Fundora? And to get a knockout, if it is indeed possible. Well, we know it's possible. But if it's applicable in this fight to get a knockout, how is that going to happen? Well, ironically enough, it's going to be with exactly what Fundora wants to do. The way to knock out Sebastian Fundora is to beat Sebastian Fundora at his own game, which for a brother who's tall like a skyscraper, loves to fight on the inside, will want to get and scrap on the inside. And against somebody like Tszyu, if you are more willing to up your output of punches and go more, not saying go for broke every single round, but you turn into a more volume style puncher with the power that you have against the long, rangy body of Fundora to set up a clean shot to the head. That's the way to do it. Beat him on the inside, and you have Sebastian at your mercy. You really do. Now, this could all change, however, if Sebastian has learned, or rather has opted now, since the knockout, to fight on the outside. Because at this point, for everything that we know Sebastian Fundora has, we know he has incredible length, but he doesn't utilize. He in essence, smothers it, which is insane. Willingly, because he loves to fight on the inside. He does not want to use his length to out jab you or to pot shot you. He wants to get down and dirty with you. But now it finally caught up to him when he got knocked out by Mendoza. So since that's the case, if he does opt to fight on the outside, that could change the whole dynamic of this fight. If he fully utilizes that long, rangy length that he has at his disposal, it could be a very tough time for somebody like Tszyu to be able to get to him and to be able to beat him due to the low output that we've seen him have on a consistent basis. Due to the ability for, or the not even inability, but due to the methodical nature that we see Tszyu fighting, with him being at such a regulated and slow, that's the right word, a regulated and slow pace that he wants to fight, again, choosing his shots incredibly wisely. That could be the thing that could beat him due to you being, or due to Tszyu being somebody that gets out punched due to their sheer volume. Just the ability to not throw, or the ability not to throw by Tszyu being smart could be the very thing that could beat him if we see Fundora utilize his length fully in this fight and opt not to fight on the inside. Because at that point, now we got to see if Tszyu can catch Fundora, get inside with that range. If we see Sebastian Fundora willing to fight on the outside at that point. Now again, all this is speculation, understand it. And there are many holes in Sebastian Fundora's game, no doubt about it. Absolutely. Oh, there's a reason why he got knocked out by Mendoza, because nobody has been able to catch him clean in those openings, like when he puts his hands down more often than not, like when he escapes out the pocket without his guard, like a head mover to some degree that we see Fundora have with that tall and lanky body. We know that he's able to be caught. Yes, he is. But that's because he normally put himself in that situation to be caught. Nobody was just able to do it. Now, if he chooses to fight on the outside fully, hey, that could be something. Yeah, whoa. Okay, now. That could be where the Tower in front of truly resides. Not just because he's able to, he can still fight on the inside, but commitment to fighting on the outside now could change this whole dynamic. It really could. Because then he could literally just use his jab and out volume Tszyu. As long as he avoids major shots and major damage, and that could be something. Because mind you, Mendoza in the early rounds was beating Tszyu with just volume. Yes, he was. Wasn't until later on in the fight when Tszyu started coming on and hurt him. That's when, okay, we saw the tide shift in the nature of the fight change, and okay, now Tszyu was winning. But he was being outpointed just by sheer amount of punches by Mendoza. We could see Sebastian Fundora do that same thing. We could. But I don't think that we'll see Sebastian Fundora win. I really don't. I think we'll see Tszyu retain, knock out Sebastian Fundora, and beat him up. I think we'll see him beat him up. Especially if we see Fundora again up to fight on the inside. It is a tall task for Tszyu, literally, because of the outright height. But he's got the power and the stamina, as well as the body attack, to be able to wear Tszyu down, break him up, and then open up the shot to catch him up top. And that's either the beginning of the end or the outright end of the fight. Either by outright knockout or TKO. Most likely in the seventh. I can see it happening in the seventh. And that would be my prediction. Again, I could be wrong. I could be right. I'm not saying I know all. Definitely I don't. But from what I see in those two styles of fights, or those two styles of fighters, Tszyu has got this. I think Tszyu has got this. On top of the consistent fighting that he's done over the last year into this year, and the long layoff that we've seen Fundora take in his tenure after that KO. Yeah. No, I think Tszyu's got this. He got this in the bag, successfully retaining. And with him retaining, we could then see him fight Terrance Crawford. Because what you have to understand is that, moving with another segment of the show, with Tszyu fighting against Fundora, winner of that fight will now be slated to fight Terrance Crawford for the 154-pound title. Legitimately. Because now Crawford, well, what's being reported, is using his super champion title as a means to get or move up and get a shot at the WBO title. And he will face the winner of either Fundora or Tszyu. And I hope it's Tszyu. That would be a very entertaining fight. That would be an incredibly entertaining fight. If Tszyu and Terrance Crawford face off against each other. And this is good. And if he fought against Fundora, if Fundora gets the upset and beats Tszyu, well then my goodness. We've never seen Terrance Crawford face off against somebody that much bigger than him. How is his boxing ability going to be able to adapt? It's a great dynamic of whatever fight gets made. But it's a good thing for Terrance Crawford, but also a bad thing. The reason why it's good, it's back in the ring, back active, moving up. I'm never angry at a champion for moving up and trying to fight another champion. Is going after a belt and is continually challenging himself. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. But like I said earlier, the bad about all this is that still you did not fight Jaron Boots Ennis when he's right there. When he was legitimately gifted a title that was stripped away wrongfully from you after you won and became the undisputed champion at welterweight. You at 147. It's wrong that you got stripped. He's got your belt. You can become a 3-time undisputed champion, fighting in the same weight class, getting your belt back against the best at that division, outside of Errol Spence Jr. And you not fighting him looks bad. But you moving up to fight, most likely Tszyu, looks good. But it doesn't balance out. It doesn't balance out because with everything going on, with you being, was he 34, 35, somewhere around that age. Understand that you're still in your prime, which is insane. Why is it that we're not seeing you get in the ring with somebody like John Boots Ennis? Now the answer to that question is multi-layered. One could be because of cashier name. Because as much as we respect and understand how good Boots is, and indeed, he's a bad brother. Almost like another version of Terrance Crawford to some degree. He's a bad dude. But his cachet isn't where it needs to be. And again, that's the job of the promoter, to promote somebody like Boots, to be seen as a killer, as a dog, as somebody who the world needs to pay attention to. That is the job of the promoter, and they failed him, are still failing him. They really are. But the name value isn't where it needs to be for somebody like a Terrance Crawford, who is at this point in time the biggest that his name has ever been. Seen by some as the best in the world, seen by me as the second best in the world behind Naoya Inoue. But still, top two in the world, talent level. We know he's so dynamic and so instinctual. We know his power can carry up to any division. Most likely that he goes up to. He's got a wide array of skills and is an exciting fighter. Terrance Crawford's got it all right now. And to face somebody like John Boots Ennis, legacy-wise, insanely great. Absolutely. Name-wise, isn't where Terrance Crawford is looking for. They're looking for the Canelos. Looking for these big-name fighters. Looking for the people with more cachet to them. More new, not even, is nuance the right word? More so, more pizzazz. More shock value to some degree. A more known name. That's what he's looking for. And hence why he kept going after Canelo. And this fight with either Tszyu or Fundora could be a stepping stone to inevitably move up to 168 and eventually fight Canelo at some point. Gradually work your way into the weight class that you ultimately want to be in to face the man that you want to face in Canelo Alvarez. That could be what this all is about. Very well could be. That doesn't change the fact that it's not the move that should be made. No, it shouldn't. Handle your business at welterweight, then go the route that you're going right now. We have no problem moving up. Love that you're moving up. I love the fact that you're moving up, that you're going and testing yourself at a higher weight. Problem is you haven't handled all of your business when it comes to John Boots Ennis. We don't know if you're going to fight Errol Spence Jr. again. I don't know what's going to happen at this point with that fight. Due to, we don't know when Spence is going to be back with both retinal tear, recovery, and just outright ring preparedness and recovery as a whole from that fight with Terrance Crawford. I don't know how long we're going to see him, how long until we see him in the ring again. That is a timetable that is unknown. That fight seemingly was supposed to happen next, but we don't know what's going to happen there. We just don't. But even without Errol Spence, there's still business to be attended to at welterweight. And it should be that he fights John Boots Ennis. Again, this is different from Canelo. This is different from what we talked with Canelo. It's different from what we talked about with Tank. We're still seeing him go and move up and fight and test himself. And unlike with Canelo and Benavidez, or unlike Tank and Devin Haney, this isn't a situation where he has A, said that they're not worth my time. B, neither is this a situation where he has outright avoided them when they were the main guy. Because again, the main man was Spence. We all understand it. The main man, the legacy defining man, was Errol Spence Jr. And he kept wanting that fight to happen. Errol Spence kept true to his word. Crawford kept true to his. I'm going to clean out my side of the street. You clean out your side of the street. Once that's done, we're making this fight happen. And they both held up to it. They both kept their word. Got every belt that was available. Went to their respective promotions and cleaned everybody out. And then Crawford crossed the street, made it happen. Spence said, all right, let's go. And they went at it. There was no avoiding. There was no ducking. There was no saying somebody isn't on my level, or rather, somebody isn't worth my time fight. It was none of that. They knew, both of them knew what the trajectory was, and they both went after it, after the promise that they made to each other. So that, boom, worked out. Boots is a killer. Absolutely. But it's not that same status level in terms of needed fight as we're seeing with Canelo now. As we saw with somebody like a Tank, who at that point his biggest name outside of Leo Santa Cruz was Ryan Garcia and could have been Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, multiple names of fighters that he had not fought yet. That made no sense for him not to fight yet. That before they moved up. And even in moving up, he's fought at that weight class before. This isn't what we're saying with Terrance Crawford. No. I'm still saying that fight should have happened. And hopefully that fight does indeed still happen. Absolutely. But it's not the same circumstances we're talking about with Canelo, Benavidez, Tank, Devin Haney, or Tank and Shakur, Tank and any other people at 135 and 140. Even Tank and Loma, who's been sitting there. Crawford cleaned out the entire division before he went and fought Spence. Spence cleaned out the entire division before he went and fought Crawford. They went and handled all the business. And then when it was unequivocally those two as to stand alone, they got it on. Terrance Crawford did his job. He did what he was supposed to do. Tank, Canelo, Tank one didn't clean out everybody. And Canelo cleaned out everybody. And then when faced with the one-on-one opposition, still opted not to go for it. There's no excuse. There was no excuse at that point. Because there was nobody else there. Crawford achieved what he was supposed to achieve and then beat the baddest man there. Now, leeway to move up or keep fighting was there as well. Moving up for a title, great. Moving or staying and reigning might have been even more, at least standing and reigning for John Boots Ennis would have been better. Don't get me wrong, would have been better. But it's not nearly as detrimental as what we're seeing from Canelo or what we're seeing from Tank. But it still should happen. No, we should still hold accountability. It's still accountable. You should have fought John Boots Ennis. He should have been the guy to get a shot at undisputed. It should have been. If you're not going to fight Spence anymore, though that fight would have still been at 154 or at a higher weight. Boots is right there. And Boots could have gotten an opportunity, especially now that he has your belt. So it's still a problem. Don't get me wrong. It is still a problem. But it's not as big as with Canelo. But it is still an issue nonetheless. Still an issue nonetheless that he should have fought Boots instead of getting a mandatory for Tszyu's or Fundora's title, depending on how that fight ends. And a shot at that belt at 154. But it's still not a bad thing to test himself at a higher weight. Again, that's not the problem. It's just that the better fight would have been Crawford versus Boots. Hopefully we see that fight sooner rather than later. But hey, either way, that's what's going down. But with that being said, as we move on and transition from the world of boxing into the world of the NBA, one of the biggest things we had to talk about with this sport as a whole is that social media has been a riot, utterly beside itself, celebrating the downfall of the 90s. That's right. Apparently, the boxing world, the basketball world is saying, we're done with it. We're finished. Finito. As of last week, we are officially over. All the old heads talking about the sport. Specifically, how much better the 90s and 80s and the older eras of basketball were compared to now. Because now, we went back and checked. We went back and looked. We took time to actually not just watch highlights, but watch full-blown games, finals games, random games. They're just available on YouTube, on the NBA app, whatever platform that's available. watching full total games. And they're saying that it sucked. Oh, it was horrible. Oh, y'all lied. We have been, we've been bamboozled. We've been fooled. That's what's the sentiment. That's the sentiment. We have been fooled, hoodwinked, led astray by the older community, by the eras past, and how the game was talked about. And we're done. Oh, we're finished. No need to talk about it no more. Is that a valid sentiment? Is that really how the basketball world should be viewing the older eras of basketball now and how the NBA used to be? Because and let's boil it down to what it really is. This is now affecting Michael Jordan as a whole. People are saying the GOAT debate's over. People are saying there's no need to talk about it anymore. Jordan didn't have a left. Layups that we saw back then, we're seeing on a nightly basis now. Jalen Green just had an insane layup. Was it last night or this week? Essentially going up, cuffing the ball, bringing it back down, and going back up with the same hand, all in one motion on a defender in traffic. It was stupid to see. And we'll probably forget about that same layup come shoot. Y'all might have already forgotten about it if I didn't bring it up right now. But most likely fully forgotten about by the time next week comes around. But if that same layup is jumped by Jordan, boom, one of the greatest layups of his career. Highlighted in every reel that he's in through and through. That's the sentiment that's going down. All this stuff is affecting a lot of players' legacies. How a lot of respect that the older era had. Is it valid? Is it not? And we need to pump the brakes a little bit because it's not. It's not valid. It's not. It shouldn't be seen that the old going back and looking at the basketball. It shouldn't be seen as they just all suck. No, that's terrible. We shouldn't be degrading these older players' legacies. We shouldn't be degrading or downplaying the abilities that these players had when they were at their best in the 90s, in the 80s. No, we shouldn't. We shouldn't be saying it. However, that doesn't mean that some of the statements aren't valid about the era. We were led to believe that it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. We were led to believe that there wasn't defense, or that there was defense then and there wasn't defense now. We were led to believe that there was a lot of times when we are soft. We don't care. We cry to the refs. We, in the current generation, were led by the past generation to say that you all don't know real ball. And that was an outright lie. You look through nostalgia-tinted glasses and let yourself believe that the game had not improved. You let yourself believe in the very narrative to save your own era. And that's not right either. Basketball, for every time and for every era, has a distinct heartbeat. And as time goes on, that heartbeat gets healthier and healthier and healthier. And by that I mean the game evolves and changes and gets better and better and better. It improves upon, it compounds upon itself. And it gets better. So for you all to say that we now don't know real ball is outright ludicrous. If you're an old head going about that same mentality of thought, it's ridiculous. No, it's stupid. It's dumb. It's absolutely dumb. On the whole, the NBA now is completely head and shoulders above the skill level that we saw players in the past. There are, most centers can do to some degree what we see guards do. Most of them. And a lot of the positions that you had in the older NBA, like the 90s, like the 80s, like the 70s, are now obsolete. A strictly only defensive player is not viable in today's NBA by coaches or players. Due to, if you don't have any offensive game at all, you become a complete liability. And the amount of effect that you have to have defensively has to be on the level of a Draymond Green. And even with him being defensively sound, offensively, he was the quote-unquote point guard, or by that I mean the man to help facilitate and run the entirety of that offense. And his IQ was through the roof. Not just on one side of the floor, but on both. And before the complete downfall of his offensive game, he was giving you 37 in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. He could shoot still. On top of all those other things, on top of being Defensive Player of the Year. He was a more versatile scorer up until that 2016 season, which after that, he just went completely down. I don't know what the world happened. But the point is, even with him being defensively minded, still had more offensive ability than we saw most defensively minded and centric players of the past. If you are not on the level of somebody like a Ben Wallace, like a now Rudy Gobert, who we still get on offensively, but if you're not on that level of defensive absolute domination, and you have no offensive game whatsoever, you're seen as not viable in today's league, which a lot of players were. And that's not a knock on them. Understand that is because of the time. That's just the truth. It's because of the time. The time of the league made it so that rules were different. Hence, you can't do everything that you're doing now. And specialized players could still have a place to a degree because everybody couldn't practice everything due to the rules. And even with, on average, the players at their specific positions, like guards that we know dominate the league today, the rules were different to where they couldn't even do everything that they wanted to do. Magic Johnson, you go back and watch him dribble, it seems like he doesn't know what he's doing. But in the confines of the rules, he was a magician. And if he had the freedom to dribble like we dribble now, with the way that you can't actually put your hand under the ball, with the way that you can have 3 steps together instead of only strictly 2, a 0 step or a gather step, and then 2 steps after that. With the freedom of movement on top of the spacing, on top of the more offensive-centric game that the rules have been pushed to, we could very well have seen him do exactly what we do now. But the point is, he didn't, because he wasn't able to, because of the rules. But that's what he played in. It's just the truth. It's not. It shouldn't be a critique against them, but at the same time, you all shouldn't be, in terms of people that downgrade today's NBA and today's greats, shouldn't get on our greats and say that they suck either, because objectively, they have more overall skill sets than you in your era, and are going against people who, on the whole, have a wider variety of talent than you do. It's just the truth. People like Jordan, people like Dominique Wilkins, people like Dr. J. Great. Absolutely. And they built upon each other. Dr. J built on Connie Hawkins. Jordan built on Dr. J. It is what it is. It is exactly what we see in the game, in the evolution that we're talking about. It's not bad. But to consistently berate and talk down on today's generation, understanding that your era was completely different under a whole new guise of rules that makes your era look ancient. It does. 90s basketball now, just watching it, isn't as pretty as we all said or lauded it to be, myself included. It's not as just aesthetically pleasing. No, it's stagnant. Everything's inside the arc. Yeah, they shot mid-range. Yes. But let's face it, if you had 2 or 3 people that could legitimately get a bucket on every team, everybody else was not on that same level to a very downgraded degree. It's the truth. It's the truth. You had unique teams like the Supersonics, who looked more like a modern day version of ball than we've seen in the past. Chicago, more modern day, Jordan, Pippen, and athletic point guard, Ron Harper when they got Ron Harper, Steve Kerr when they got Steve Kerr. So we've seen players that were able, or we've seen teams that looked like modern day teams. What happened? They won. Hakeem, when he won with Kenny Smith. and when he won with Clyde Drexler. That team with Vernon Maxwell, with Kenny the Jet Smith, with the King, with Clyde, that roster on the whole looked more like a well-rounded, multi-dimensional offensive team that could also play defense as well. Oh, look, isn't that what we have with a lot of modern-day basketball today? Multiple different scorers that can actually do more than just get to the hole and do layups. Can shoot from the mid-range. Again, the makeups of teams were different back then than they were now. The whole mentality of basketball was different than it was now. 90s, 80s, 70s. It just is what it is. But you all brought this on yourself in terms of old heads and older people who consistently did, players as well, coaches as well, who were from the 90s and 80s, and who continually downplayed this level of basketball, continued to downplay this era, who hated, not just critiqued, hated LeBron, hated Steph Curry, hated even Giannis Antetokounmpo, which is the same to say. All these people hated shooting threes, hated having the ability to, oh, you didn't play defense then. When, remember, in your era, 80s and 90s, in 70s, illegal defense was a thing. You couldn't play zone. We have more complex defense than we ever did in that era of basketball. Either you doubled or you were left on an island. If you tried to play zone, it was illegal, and you couldn't do it. No wonder Michael Jordan would be able to be one of the most dominant scorers in the NBA history. Not taken away from his ability, because it is still his ability. That wouldn't change. But the rules also helped him because of they let him be able to isolate without any hindrance. Let somebody double Shaq, or let somebody force Shaq to play one-on-one. Kill him. He killing everybody like he did. When zones and stuff still became apparent, he still got his and still dominated. But again, let somebody like a LeBron be forced to play in isolation with only, and you can't zone and you can't double, or excuse me, you can either man him or double him and have no other option. Can't shade, can't help, can't do none of that. You have to either man him up one-on-one on an island, or you got to double him. One of the greatest passes that we had ever seen, and arguably the greatest scorer that we've ever seen, with him scoring 40K, being a pass first player. You're not stopping him. Kobe, you're not stopping him. Jason Tatum, you're not stopping him. Kyrie Irving, you're not stopping him. If we had those same rules today, it just doesn't work. We're putting the complexity and the movability and the outright flexibility that defenses have now is vastly more sophisticated than it was back then in terms of schemes and avenues and abilities and tactics that teams can play that could have helped stop people like Jordan or others before they were deemed non-applicable, or rather banned, due to it being a stringent rule on how defense could be run. So you had man-to-man defense, and you had double. You didn't have 3-2, you didn't have 1-3-1, you didn't have boxing one even in college. Or whatever other defense you could think of. It just wasn't applicable because it wasn't available, because it wasn't possible, because it was banned. So yes, we have defense now. Effort could be a problem. Effort is a problem in today's NBA. Absolutely. No doubt about it. I hate that fact. Effort is a problem from the players specifically. If they gave more effort and given more defensive freedom. Again, NBA is looking into changing their rules as a league. Understand it. On the defensive side to allow more defensive presence in NBA games. Love that. Make it so that you can have more physicality and players that are strong can use their strength on the perimeter rather than making it so that we can't do anything on the perimeter. Be more stringent on carries and travels by players. Refs as a whole be more stringent on screens, whether they're illegal or not. That helps immensely in the nature of the game. And doesn't let offenses get away with things that defense never gets away with. That type of stuff can help fix defense, and as well as player effort as a whole gets more active and becomes more prioritized. But because it's an offensively driven league, again, the league did this to themselves by continually mounting up rules to help the offense out and provide more scoring. They did this to themselves. They caused this problem. They're the root cause of why we are where we are in terms of players' mentalities on the defensive end. We have people that can be, we have a bunch of people that can be elite defenders. They just don't give effort. Individually. We have a bunch of athletic freaks of nature that they committed themselves. They could be insane defenders. More on average length and strength and speed than we've ever seen in the NBA in the history of the league. That is undeniable. That's undeniable. That's not, you can't fight that. But the mentality has been, we need offense to win. From players, coaches, fans, and the league as a whole. The commissioner. Now they're trying to wrap it back to, let's give defense a real incentive, which is phenomenal. Changes can be made. Changes need to be made. It's not the question, but it's not the problem. Problem is, you all are consistently saying that this era is weak in everything under the sun. But your era would not, in terms of the evolution of the game, is not on this era's level. Outright talent. Overall skill sets of players. 7-footers shooting threes and spreading out the offense. 7-footers, 6'10", 6'11", like Nikola Jokic, taking the ball over the floor. We saw and heard about Shaq doing it sometimes, but it wasn't often. It wasn't often. We're seeing Nikola Jokic take the ball up the floor nearly every time that niggas play. Joel Embiid take the ball up the floor. Wembanyama, my gosh. Giannis Antetokounmpo. We're seeing this on a consistent basis. Centers, power forwards, big men taking the ball up the floor. Big men stretching the floor. Positionless basketball, what's talked about now. Because everybody can do everything, nearly. Everybody can shoot to some degree. Everybody can pass to some degree. Everybody can score to some degree. You say, oh, that was the same in the older. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't at all. No, it was not at all. Absolutely not. It wasn't like that. Not this wide of every single player has a guard level skill set to some degree. It wasn't like that at all. That's completely different. It's completely different now. It's completely better now. This era has its flaws. So did the 90s. So did the 80s. So did the 70s. Any great would still dominate. Understand that this whole thing is not just because we're hating on an era. No. Any great in an era would still dominate in any era. Sean Kemp would still be Sean Kemp. Gary Payton would still be Gary Payton. Jordan would still be Jordan. Drexler would be Drexler. Hakeem, Shaq. We can go down the list. We can go down the list. Pippen would still be great. The greats would still be great regardless of era. And the people that played then, like Dragan Petrovic, like Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, like Allen Iverson, they would dominate even more to what they were already due to the nature of today's game. It's just the truth. But because the freedom that offense has and the more spacing and the more dynamic styles and the more guard-driven ability and just as a whole, freedom that offensive players have today that you all just didn't have in the past. You all would still be great today. I'm not debating that. But for you to say that if you put LeBron or any modern great right now in that era of basketball, in the 90s, in the 80s, in the 70s, that they just wouldn't be able to compete is ludicrous and stupid. If you think they look great now with how they are right now, you put people like they are right now, you put LeBron like he is right now, near the end of his career, LeBron, in that era of basketball, But he most likely ends the debate for the GOAT conversation while he's there at this age. Giannis at that point in time, nobody stopped him. Kyrie Irving in the 90s or 80s, killing everybody. There's no Nikola Jokic then would still be dominating like Nikola Jokic now. But him stretching the floor like he would be, while also having the size and passing ability, insane to see. Would be stupid. A wizard. This is not a knock against your era. This is understanding that you all need to stop putting down an era of basketball in the modern day that you all never got to in your own day. Because it wasn't the same game. You brought this on yourself if you were one of those people that kept on hating on LeBron for the argument of Jordan, downplaying anything that anybody did today, and all this stuff, due to the fact that your game was so different. And the rules that you had relegated you to something, to what you, not to something, relegated you to what you saw and what you could do. And you all were still great. Absolutely. We build upon the shoulders of what was in the past. You all were one of the building blocks. Each era was one of the building blocks. But to downgrade our era to your era is ludicrous. It's ridiculous. It's stupid and dumb. It is terrible that we are looking at this and saying, oh yeah, 2000s, 2010, whatever, we couldn't, y'all won't be able to compete with us. No, yes we could. Yes we could. Yes we could. Old heads did this partially because of their love of Jordan, and in part because they wanted to hold on to what was. But now that we got to see really what it's about, your game is just like with the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. As each era improved, every decade, we saw an evolution that put another era to shame in terms of the freedom and what basketball was. It just did. And now we go to the 90s, to the 2000s, 2010s. The era of basketball, it's not the same. It's just not the same. It's not the same. It's better now, objectively, and will always be better now than what it was in the past. That's not disrespect. That is because of the natural evolution. 80s evolved into the 90s, and the 90s was better ball. 70s evolved into the 80s, and the 80s was better ball. We can keep going down. But to disrespect what we're seeing now, to disrespect people like Steph Curry, to disrespect people like LeBron, and other greats that we're seeing in the modern day game, it's wrong. It's wrong and it's stupid. And now a lot of people are getting hurt over the fact that their favorite era of basketball has been trashed or being tarnished or being disrespected. But you all did this for 20 years. From my getting into basketball from 2005 on, you all hated our game. Hated it. Hated it. You hated LeBron. You hated anything to do with today's basketball. You hated three-point shooting. You hated Kobe Bryant. You hated everything. Called him a carbon copy as a degrading statement. You hated shooting threes for big men. You hated it. You despised it. Everything that we did, the dribbling, the pace, all of it, the offensive style. Even when we had a seemingly perfect medium between like 2000 and 2004 of defense, still, you hated it. Got on everybody. And anybody that was even seemingly great, called him a crybaby, called him a punk, called him whiny, and used everything possible to discredit what their abilities were. You did that for 20 odd years. Now we see today's game. or today's fans going back and watching your product and saying that it's not the same game and that it is very much comparative to now, more rudimentary, which is true, and more simplified in terms of the skill sets of players, which is true. Pointing out flaws in your greats game, which are true. That's it. It's true. And you're getting hurt over that? Over what you did to us? It's ridiculous. And it's thin skin. You acting like the punks that you said the NBA players were. You acting like the whiny people that you were calling people like LeBron, people like Kobe, even people like Steph, Jason Tatum, whatever you want to, any era of basketball, Dwayne Wade. We can go down the list of every single great that played in the modern day aspect of basketball, and you called them nothing. Now we go and critique your era and you can't take it. Shame on you. Shut up and sit down. Now that that's the case, shut up and sit down. You have no right. If you can't take, and justifiably so, the critiques on an era that was a bygone era 20 years ago, and you want to still hold on to that as the best basketball in the world, you are stupid and don't deserve to talk about ball. You don't. Sit down and shut up. It's ridiculous and stupid to say that. It is insanely ignorant of you as being a bum to be able to go and have that mentality and hold that as Bible. That is ridiculous and stupid. You are ridiculous and stupid if that is how you think, because it's not how it's supposed to be. Stop discrediting every era of basketball. Appreciate what you got. Appreciate Braun. Appreciate Tatum. Appreciate Giannis. Just like you appreciate Jordan, Bird, Magic, Hakeem. We can go tit for tat for what great would be what great. Because all the greats would translate to each other, because any great would be great in any era. But it's the fact that you continually chose to bully and nullify any achievement that we have, even to this day. Even to this day. And it's because of Jordan fans a big majority of the time. It is. It's because of Jordan fans more often than not that we're having this pushback and sentiment of your era sucked. It's because of them. Let's not mince words about it. They're the loudest ones that got to say that we sucked in today's era. We don't know what we're talking about. We don't know what we're saying. Our ball ain't real ball. We don't know basketball really. What you're saying now is stupid. A degradation of the game. A hypocrisy of basketball. It's ridiculous that was the sentiment. That is the sentiment by people. And that you all, in terms of people that held that mentality, chose to stick by that. And now we're going to critique, rightfully so, your brand of basketball, your era of ball, and say that watching it now, it doesn't compare to what we see today. And it doesn't. But you didn't get hurt about it, and now you saying that, oh, you attacking, how dare you attack this hollowed era? It's ridiculous and stupid. You need to shut up and sit down. You're acting like a bum. You are. You're acting like a bum. Because you brought this on yourself and said that, oh, we don't know what we're watching. Okay. What's real basketball? Your era, we watched your era. And it doesn't compete in terms of how the game was. Not your greats. How the game was. It's not the same. At all. We're better as a league as a whole. We're seeing people with Jordan's athleticism riding the bench. We are in the G League. More talented, bigger, faster, stronger, and has more history of the game available to them than ever before. More versatile in their skill sets. Everybody can shoot to some degree. Even the bad shooters can still take shots and make them. This is not a knock on any era. This is a wake-up call to say respect every era. Respect every great. Respect the times that they were in and appreciate them. That's what I did. That's why I got an unbiased opinion of ball now, or just of sports in general, because I didn't waste time trying to critique and mess up or downgrade what we were seeing now. Did I have my problems with today's NBA? Sure. That didn't mean that I said it was better than that it was that every other era was just a bump, or that this era just couldn't compete with any era of the past. No, that's ridiculous. It's stupid. Every era has its place. Every era was great for its time. Every era brought something to the table. Every era should be cherished. And greats shouldn't be pitted against each other as you couldn't compete with us. Because if we're going down that road, if the greats were how they were then, would they be able to compete at the same high level? Potentially not, due to the nature of the game. Again, I'm saying that as in, if we took what they were as they were, without understanding that you put those same players in this same era of basketball with the ability to evolve just like it, without that ability, do they compete? Potentially not. But again, that's another stupid conversation. Because as I said before, every great from every era, if they were able to play with the same rules and freedom that we have now, and the same mentality of basketball that we have now, they would still be what they are. They would adapt with the times and overcome, and be the greats that we see them as now. Still, that wouldn't change. But to completely disrespect what we are as an era of basketball in the modern day, and say that we couldn't compete with them, or we don't know nothing about ball compared to what they knew, 90s, the 80s, and whatever. It's stupid. It's a dumb argument. It's a ridiculous argument. And we should never have it. Never. Should never have it. We should never have that type of argument. Because now, apparently y'all can't take those conversations. Apparently. Because the reality situation, we're not done with the 90s. We're not done with any era of basketball. We just have to understand now to put your pitchforks down and stop trying to ride your own era so hard that you go and hate and discredit every other era. Because if you want to play that game, you'll never be able to win. Because your era will be seen as the worst of the bunch. Because of the evolution of the game, which is natural. But in every contextualized sense, when you look at basketball and appreciate it for what it is, for what the game was for the time, now you can see the beauty of the sport. That's how it's supposed to be seen. So no, we're not done with the 90s. But 90s people, 80s people, 70s people, Jordan fans, Jordan lovers, you all have to stop with the mess that you're doing. Constantly discrediting the game of basketball. Because the more you do that, the more we can go back and say, you really want to critique? Because if we want to critique, we'll make your game look archaic. If you want to critique, we'll make your game look so obsolete it's not basketball. We can go that route because of how non-free your game was due to your league. It got so bad you moved the three-point line 9 inches up. And the greatest of your era, Jordan, who was shooting sub 28%, shot 50% from three that same year. And then when they moved it back, after that one season, went back down to 30%. So, again, we can go down that route of critiquing and hating on errors. We really can. But we don't want to do that, do we? No. Because apparently now you all can't take it. Because you all keep living in the past without living in the reality of what basketball is. A constant change, an improvement and compounding success on itself. Hence, eras that come after you will be better. And eras that came in the past are relegated to what they were in the past. Even the 2000s don't look the same as the 2010s. And 2010s ball don't look the same as the 2020s. It does. It's different. It just is different. It just is. That's not bad. But when you make it a point for it to be bad, we can go that route. We can go that route. Because now we ain't being lied to anymore. We're not going to be taken with the wool over our eyes. It's not happening. It's not happening anymore. Not happening anymore when it comes to basketball. Know that. 90s were great. 80s were great. 70s were great for their time. Just like the 2000s, 2010s, and now. Every era is great. Every great would be great. Just appreciate it. Just appreciate it. Appreciate it. Understand there's things you can learn from every era. And love basketball just as a whole. Instead of having tribalism as the only thing on your mind. When you go that route now, you play a game that, as you can clearly see, you don't want to play. You don't want to play that game. You really don't. But with that being said, this has been another episode of the Welch Report with me, Jean-Luc Welch. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Again, we're available on every podcasting platform, so please rate us 5 stars there. Get us on the good foot in terms of getting traction in the airways on every phone, every platform possible. And again, right here, you can catch it on YouTube. Go back and watch some episodes of what we got in store for this channel. And keep on sharing the show with everybody that you know so we can keep on building up to 1,000 subscribers and then completely throwing that metric out the window and getting to 10,000, 20,000, 100,000. Who knows how far this can go? We can't do this without your help. So thank you for all the support that you've given us so far. And again, I've been Jean-Luc Welch. Y'all have been wonderful. Peace and love. We are out of here.